Hello, I'm Paul Wilkinson and I'm here in Nepal making a series of documentaries about Nepali culture, about shamanism, about all the festivals in Nepal, and also about their arts and crafts and their various different traditions. I have a collection here of dyes that are used for silver work. So this is covered in amazing little patterns and designs to hammer the silver into for jewellery, for little beads and for earrings and for pieces for necklaces and for larger crowns. So on this one you have maybe 100 tiny little designs, so it would work as a whole thing, as a whole panel that would go into something, but also there are butterflies and hearts and volvic shapes, shells, flowers of different types. So very, very interesting. And so you would get a little sheet of silver or gold and hammer it down, and then you have your object to solder together to make the next layer. Sort of volvic shapes, little angel here. It's probably Tibetan or Bhutanese, because on the back it has a little bit of Tibetan or Bhutanese writing. Very old, cast in bronze with a gentle curve. This is a bronze cloud design in a sort of low relief, probably Tibetan. Again for silver or gold. Pretty old, but the cloud design is really quite special. So you get this detailed silver work or gold work, usually silver work, on all sorts of objects like knives and incense holders. So this is a way of sort of manufacturing that, but in a very time-consuming, handmade way. But it's a way of repeating a pattern. These are bronze dies for making circular balls for beads or for the outside of other larger sculptures that would then be soldered together, and you've got dozens of different size balls on each side for little silver beads or gold beads. The inner sculptor in me had to buy this, even though it's of no functional use for me. I'm not a jewellery maker, but this is for making hundreds and hundreds of different types of circular bead. Sometimes this would be for sections on maybe on a vase or on a larger object, but probably most of the time for beads. But just such a fascinating and beautiful thing in its own right. And I have a smaller one here for the same thing, but even smaller, little tiny, absolutely wonderful object. Very, very old. Interestingly, had a little glyph on one side there, like a rising sun. Now this is again something for a ritual object, probably for silver, but maybe for copper, because it's not such fine work, in the shape of a bird, and they fit together. So you can see you would have both sides and then sort of soldered together with silver solder. And then you have a solid bird for actually they're often you get on the corners of temples, on the tops of walking sticks. They're a symbol for sort of for the journey of the psyche, for the journey of the soul flying into the other worlds. So it's like a good luck symbol. Bronze birds for making silver or copper bird shapes to be included in various sculptures. They quite often go on the corners of shrines. So very nice, again, bronze objects. This one is cast in iron, and it has someone's little glyph on the bottom, but again, little patterns for silver work. Very, very nice. For little decorative features to be made in silver, and at the bottom the maker's mark RK with a sort of lion at the bottom, and the lion is a stamp that's often used in English silverware, but cast in or hammered in iron. You can see it's been forged out of a chunk of iron. So this has the foot of a goddess, or a foot of Buddha, and inside is lots and lots of other symbols representing the attributes of the goddess or the god. A Buddha or a god or goddess footprint full of sacred symbols, surrounded by leaves and decorative patterns, with little tiny symbols inside the foot and in each toe. Very fine work, and it would be used for hammering silver work. But again, very, very beautiful, very fine, so it would be used to hammer that into a piece of silver work, probably for a pendant or a ritual object. This one again repeats the feet, and you have a temple or a outside temple shape, and then an umbrella which represents the protection of the heavens. So you'd have a little loop at the top. This is for hammering in silver, and you've got the god or goddess's feet, and the shrine area for the temple, and surrounded with the vases and other offering vases. The umbrella, which is the protection of heaven, and then the surrounding temple. So you would hammer silver inside this, and it would be very beautiful, very, very nice amulet. So this one represents a sacred people tree or Bodhi tree, with inside is a sort of Shiva Lingam stone, and like a temple inside the tree. Also probably used as an amulet, but maybe for other sort of decorative jewellery. So we have a tree with a Shiva Lingam stone and the branches of the tree, with fruit all the way inside, some big leaves, so like a peepal tree. A sort of flowering crown, and used again as a die for hammering in silver work. Very old, it's bronze, but the copper is coming through because it's so old. So this is very beautiful, lots of flowers and leaves, some other decorative designs, possibly fruit, a damaru. But because it's very centrifugal, coming out from the middle to the outside, this would be used as a large plate of something, so maybe for decorating silverware, like silver pots or large amulets or bits of a crown. The interesting thing about these sort of hexagonal pieces is that they would all fit together like a honeycomb. So you could have actually a large piece of jewellery or a large panel maybe on a temple where the decorative work is covering the whole thing. So it's probably used for silver. Occasionally they use copper as well, and then they'll silver or gold plate the copper. But very fine work, very, very beautiful. And all of these have a gentle curve where the silver is hammered over it, so that it gives a sense of volume, and also for strength, so when you're hammering it down onto it. So very, very nice. Now this is a very deep sort of pine cone. This looks like one of those purple muckmully flowers. I don't know what the English name of it is, but they wear them as a garland to protect the person so that they have the long life. And this is the type of flower. So it's seen to be eternal because it doesn't lose its colour. So it's a protector for long life. So probably for earrings or for beads made of silver. A very, very nice object. Here another iron piece, and with this, it's got the insignia of whatever the jeweller was here. But quite simple, but a nice solid piece. They remind me of the old letters that you would get with printers when they were before all the digital age. Printers would have thousands of little blocks where every letter was cut out of usually of iron, and they'd need to change the letters with typesetting for every size, and this is very similar. So this is a little iron block for a piece of silverware. Now this one, the shape of it is probably designed so that you've got the oval shape as the front panel, and then I think these pieces would wrap around and make a solid object. Another sacred foot, with this time with a flower in it. Very, very nice. So this looks like a poppy design inside a pendant, and the silver would be hammered in here. Now this is a silver ingot. It's probably not completely pure because it's not quite the right colour, but silver, once you've melted it down a lot of times, gets quite brittle, and I was very pleased to find this. I can see there's tiny little traces of copper and things in it, but it was a nice find because I just got it for the same price as these other jewellery dies, and I got a nice chunk of silver there, probably to be recycled, and then they'd sold off everything to the antique dealer in a job lot. Forgot about their piece of silver. I can see tiny pieces of copper, and I found this in with a group of jewellery dies where the jeweller would have taken all their little scrap pieces of silver where they're filing them off and then melted them all down. So this is a very nice clear die of Kali with all her symbolic weapons, and she's trampling on top of her husband Shiva, so it depicts the moment of love and surrender where Shiva places himself below Kali in order to stop her from her killing rampage. So Kali's destroying all the demons and drinking their blood, but she's gotten so much into the fierce bloodlust that nothing can stop her. And the only thing that can stop her is the love of her husband. So you've got the heart shape here, and Kali is a very interesting image because she's often depicted in this terrifying form with the tongue out and staring eyes and all the weapons, but she's actually destroying everything that stands in the way of love. Inside is this very beautiful woman, and on the outside very scary. And then these, also cast in iron, but for long pieces of silver work, probably they would hammer that and then roll it around, so you'd have long cylindrical beads, or maybe for the edging on something, so possibly for the edging on something like a silver pot or a silver pouring jug. And then this similar, but instead of the pattern, this is for a long piece of like a rope-like design twisting round and round, so that you'd have the silver, so they'd put it in from one side and then put it in from the other side, and you get this very nice long piece of silver that with all this decorative design in it. So this, absolutely beautiful, covered in lots and lots of little flower designs, probably designed for a piece of large jewellery or as a stamp that would go on the outside of something like a pot. So they use things like silver for little offering pots, and for sort of ritual wear used for things like weddings as well. So very, very beautiful, all these little star patterns. And this is very beautiful, with a probably for a bead, where it would be done on both sides, and it's like a star flower in the middle and the foliage all the way around and the stem. So very beautiful. I hope you found that interesting. It's amazing what you can find. One of the things I absolutely adore about Nepal and about Kathmandu is you can find all sorts of things from making these traditional arts and crafts, where they've become very specialist areas now in the West, where very few people do it, but you can still go into the back streets and sometimes find someone hammering away in the back shop with making little silver beads, or pouring gold or copper, or hammering into, making pots, or some other sort of cast object. So it's, for an artist and a creative, it's a really wonderful place to find inspiring objects like this. And there's such a crossover between these dyes for making pieces of silver and gold ware, and for making beads. And then there's a similar sort of workmanship for making the carved printing blocks. This is for like an old-fashioned visiting card, and the printing blocks for textiles, and the printing blocks for pictures, for printing onto paper. So hope you found that interesting, and do subscribe to the channel. Do let me know if there are other things you're interested in, and I'll see you at the next one.